I used to believe that silence was a form of love. That peace, stability, and mutual respect were stronger than passion or jealousy. For 13 years, Madison and I lived in that quiet rhythm, two professionals who built our lives with precision just like one of my architectural blueprints. She worked in public relations, always in motion, always talking, always glowing under city lights. I was the opposite, an architect who found beauty in balance, in lines that met perfectly, in the sound of nothing but pencil against paper. Our home in Round Rock looked like something out of a magazine spread. Smooth white walls, oak floors, sunlight streaming through tall windows. Every detail was deliberate, even the imperfections. People often told us how lucky we were. I used to smile and nod, pretending they were right. But in truth there was something hollow inside those walls, something quiet but sharp. Madison started to change first. I noticed it in small ways, the longer hours, the half-finished conversations, the new perfume that lingered after she left for work. She began talking about excitement, spontaneity, how relationships shouldn't feel like contracts. One night, while I was sketching plans for a sustainable housing project, she asked, "Do you ever get jealous, Josh?" I looked up, surprised. Jealous? Of what? She sighed and shook her head, that small disappointed smile forming on her lips. That's just it. You never are. You're too calm, too rational. It's like nothing gets to you anymore. I wanted to tell her that my calm wasn't emptiness. It was control, the kind I built after years of watching other people destroy what they loved because of emotion. But I didn't. Instead, I went back to my sketches, tracing the outlines of a structure that, for the first time, felt like a lie. Weeks passed and our dinners turned into silence. Her phone face down on the table, her laughter quieter, her eyes wandering. I thought about asking if something was wrong, but every time I looked at her, I saw the same woman I married, confident, beautiful, restless, and I convinced myself it was just stress. Then Cole called. My oldest friend from college, turning 40, throwing a birthday party at his new villa near Lake Travis. He insisted I come. Bring Madison, he said. It'll be good for both of you. You've been too damn serious lately. Madison was the first to say yes. She loved parties, the music, the people, the thrill of being seen. For me, it was just another social event, another chance to play the role of the husband who had it all together. Still, I agreed. Maybe, deep down, I hoped the night would remind us of who we used to be. The evening of the party, she appeared in the doorway wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. It clung to her like it had been tailored just for temptation. Her hair fell in soft waves, her red lips curved into something between confidence and challenge. How do I look? She asked, spinning slightly. You look beautiful, I said and meant it. But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of mischief or maybe defiance. I couldn't tell which. We drove to Lake Travis in near silence, the city lights fading behind us. She scrolled through her phone, smiling at something I couldn't see. I focused on the road, the hum of the tires, the quiet that had become our language. The villa was alive when we arrived, laughter spilling from the terrace, the smell of grilled food and expensive perfume in the air. Cole greeted us with open arms, already half drunk, and handed me a glass of whiskey before pulling Madison into a hug that lasted just a little too long. Good to see you too, he said. You've been ghosts lately. Madison laughed. He's been married to his blueprints, she teased, nodding toward me. Everyone laughed and I forced a smile. Inside, the party was loud, golden light bouncing off champagne glasses and the lake shimmering in the distance. Madison fit right in, radiant, alive. I watched her from across the room, the way she moved, the way she talked, the way people gravitated toward her. It used to make me proud. Tonight it made me uneasy. And then I saw him, Ryan Blake. I'd met him once before at one of her agency events. Freelance photographer. Younger, confident, the kind of man who flirted just by existing. When she spotted him, her entire posture changed. Her smile widened, her eyes softened, her laugh grew louder. I stayed near the balcony, pretending to check my phone. But my eyes betrayed me, drawn back to her over and over again. They were close, too close. Their conversation looked like a dance, words and gestures looping into something electric. At one point, she touched his arm and he didn't pull away. For the first time in years, I felt something crack inside me. Not anger. Not jealousy. Something colder. As the night deepened, the music shifted. Slower, heavier. Couples began to dance near the poolside. Madison joined them, pulling Ryan by the hand, her laughter slicing through the crowd. When she sat on his lap, her head tilted back, I felt every eye in that room turn toward them, and then toward me. Cole stepped beside me, awkward, whispering, "Josh, you okay, man?" I stared at the scene, at my wife performing her version of a love story for strangers, and said quietly, "Let her finish. The show's not over yet." Cole didn't respond. The air felt heavy, pressing against my chest. I took a slow sip of whiskey, the burn anchoring me to the moment. Somewhere inside, something final settled into place, like the last brick in a wall I didn't realize I'd been building all along. That was the night I stopped believing that silence was love. When the party ended, the laughter dissolved into fragments of noise and broken conversations. The night air was cool against my skin, sharp with the scent of lake water and spilled wine. People stumbled to their cars, still laughing, still pretending everything was fine. Madison wasn't among them. I found her in the parking lot, standing under a flickering light, arms crossed, her phone pressed against her chest like a shield. She looked up when she saw me, startled, guilty, or maybe just tired. "Josh, wait," she said, stepping closer. It wasn't what it looked like. I didn't say anything. I just watched her, watched the way her lips trembled between excuses. "It was a test," she finally blurted. "An experiment." I blinked, confused. "A test?" She nodded quickly, brushing her hair back. "Yeah, a loyalty test. It's a trend, you know? On TikTok. People test their partners to see if they still care, if they get jealous. I wanted to see if you still felt something. You never react, Josh. You're like a wall," I finished for her. She bit her lip, hesitated. "I just wanted to know if you'd fight for me." For a moment I almost laughed, not because it was funny but because it was absurd. 13 years of marriage reduced to a social experiment. "So you humiliated me," I said softly, "in front of everyone, for a video trend?" Her face fell. "It wasn't like that." "No." I stepped closer, my voice low but steady. "Then tell me what it was like, Madison. Tell me how sitting on another man's lap proves anything except how far you've fallen." She opened her mouth but nothing came out. I looked at her, the woman I had built a life with, the one whose laughter used to fill our kitchen, whose hand once fit perfectly in mine, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger. No heartbreak. Just an empty kind of peace, the kind that comes when something already dead finally stops pretending to live. "Congratulations," I said quietly. "You got your reaction. Josh. I guess I finally care again," I cut in. "Just not in the way you hoped." She flinched. I walked past her, keys in hand, the gravel crunching under my shoes like punctuation. She called my name again, her voice cracking, but I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. The drive home was silent. Austin's skyline glowed faintly in the distance, but it felt like another world. I didn't play music. I didn't think about her words. I just drove, breathing in the stillness that had always been my companion. When I pulled into the driveway, I sat in the car for a long time, staring at the dark windows of our house. Our home. The one we built together, decorated together, the one that still smelled like her vanilla candles. Then I got out, went inside, and started to work. I called Jonathan Hale, my attorney. He'd handled a few property deals for me over the years. Efficient, discreet, unemotional. Perfect for what I needed now. "Jonathan, I need divorce papers drawn up," I said. My voice didn't shake. It was just another transaction. He didn't sound surprised. "Tonight?" "Yes. I'll send the details by email." After that, I opened my laptop, logged into our joint account, and moved half the funds into a separate one. I didn't clean her out. I wasn't that kind of man, but I made sure what was mine would stay mine. Then I searched online for a moving company that operated overnight. A 24-hour service out of Austin had a slot open at 6:30 in the morning. Perfect. I booked it. When I finished, I stood in the middle of the living room, the silence pressing in like fog. The moonlight traced the outlines of our furniture. The couch we'd bought after our first promotion, the framed wedding photos on the wall, the dining table that had seen more quiet dinners than laughter. Everything looked exactly the same, and yet nothing did. I began packing. Books first. Then my clothes. My drafting tools. My laptop. I filled each box with calm, deliberate movements, the kind you use when you're trying not to feel. Around 2 in the morning I paused to make coffee. Old habit. The smell filled the air, familiar and grounding. I sat on the kitchen stool, staring at the clock, waiting for the hours to pass. At some point I heard the garage door creak open. Madison had come home. Her footsteps echoed down the hallway before stopping abruptly. "Josh?" she called, her voice trembling. "In here?" I said. She appeared in the doorway, mascara smudged, eyes red. Her gaze darted to the boxes stacked by the front door. "What is this? You're leaving?" "Yes." "Because of tonight?" I took a slow breath. "No. because of everything that led to tonight. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You can't be serious. You're overreacting. I almost smiled at that. Overreacting, as if this was sudden, as if the cracks hadn't been there for years. I'm not leaving you because of a test, Madison, I said quietly. I'm leaving because you think love needs one. She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. I could see it in her eyes, the realization that I wasn't bluffing, that the calm she used to mock was now her enemy. For the first time in our marriage, she didn't know what to say. I turned away, finished taping the last box, and placed it by the door. The moving truck would arrive in 4 hours. I didn't plan to sleep. There was no point. That night, as I looked around the house one final time, I thought about the irony, how the woman who had tested my loyalty had just proven hers was never real. And in that strange, quiet moment before dawn, I realized something even colder. I wasn't heartbroken. I was free. The first light of morning slid through the blinds like thin blades of gold. I hadn't slept, not even for a minute. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant rumble of tires from the highway. At exactly 6:30, I heard it, the low growl of a truck pulling into the driveway. The movers arrived right on time, 2 men in navy shirts and tired eyes. They looked around, unsure if they were at the right address. Collins? One of them asked. I nodded. That's me. Everything by the door goes. The rest stays. They didn't ask questions. They never do. They just got to work, lifting boxes one by one, their boots thudding softly against the floorboards Madison and I had chosen together 12 years ago. I poured myself another cup of coffee, though it was cold before I even tasted it. My hands didn't shake, but something in my chest felt weightless. As if I had already left days ago and my body was just catching up. I was sealing one last box when I heard the sound of hurried footsteps. Madison's voice followed, broken, desperate. Joshua, please? I turned around. She was barefoot, wearing the robe she used to wear on slow Sunday mornings. Her hair was a mess, her eyes swollen. She looked smaller somehow, as if the night had taken something from her too. Don't do this, she pleaded. We can talk. We can fix it. There's nothing to fix, I said quietly. You broke something that doesn't mend. Her voice cracked. It was one mistake. One night. No, Madison, I said. It was one night that showed me everything. She started crying harder, clutching the wall as if it could keep her upright. You can't just walk away after 13 years. You can't throw that away. I stared at her, at the woman I had once chosen to share my life with, and for a moment, I almost believed her. But then I remembered the look in her eyes last night, that mix of defiance and amusement as she tested my love like it was a game. You didn't throw it away, I said softly. You set it on fire and filmed it for fun. She shook her head, sobbing. I didn't mean to hurt you. I sighed. Intent doesn't erase consequence. The movers passed behind us carrying the final box. The sound of their boots echoed like a heartbeat slowing down. Madison reached for me again, but I stepped aside. Please, she whispered, I'll delete the video, I'll tell everyone it was a mistake. It's not about the video, I interrupted. It's about the fact that you thought love needed proof. That you thought embarrassment could measure loyalty. Her tears fell faster. You're not even angry, she said, her voice breaking. How can you just stand there like this? I looked at her, and for a brief second I wanted to give her the anger she was searching for, the shouting, the broken dishes, the storm. But there was nothing left inside me to give. Only calm. I'm not angry, I said. I'm done. Outside, the movers shut the truck door with a dull slam. Madison turned toward the sound and let out a trembling breath. Please, Josh. Don't go. I already did, I whispered. I handed her the house keys. Her fingers brushed mine, cold and shaking. You can keep the house, I added. You'll need it more than I will. She stared at me as if I were someone she'd never met before. Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't the man she married anymore, or maybe she just never saw who I really was until now. The front door creaked open as I stepped outside. Morning sunlight flooded the street, blinding and clean. Across the road, our neighbors stood in their yards, pretending not to watch but failing miserably. The whispers had already begun. Madison followed me to the porch, her voice barely above a whisper. Where will you go? Anywhere quiet, I said. Maybe downtown for a while. Is there someone else? I met her eyes. No, just me. She nodded slowly, defeated. The tears on her cheeks caught the sunlight, glimmering like rain on glass. Then Cole's car appeared at the corner of the street. He pulled up quickly, engine still running. I could tell from his face that he knew. He'd always been terrible at hiding guilt. He walked up to me, awkward and hesitant. "Josh, man, there's something you should know." Madison stiffened beside me. "Cole, don't." I looked at him. "Say it." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Ryan and Madison, it wasn't just last night. They've been close. For a while." The world didn't shatter. It didn't even shake. It just settled. Like a truth that had always been there, finally stepping into the light. Madison began to sob again, but I didn't look at her. I simply nodded once. "Now it makes sense," I said. Cole looked crushed, like he expected me to hit him or scream. I just gave him a faint smile. "Thank you for telling me." I turned, walked down the steps, and climbed into the truck. The driver glanced at me through the mirror, waiting for a signal. "Go ahead," I said quietly. As the engine rumbled to life, I looked back once, just once. Madison stood on the porch, framed by the morning sun, crying into her hands. Cole stood beside her, helpless. The truck rolled forward. The house grew smaller in the rearview mirror until it disappeared completely. And just like that, 13 years of my life became part of the scenery, fading behind me one quiet mile at a time. I didn't know where I was going, only that it had to be somewhere else. Somewhere I could breathe again. And for the first time in years, I did. I moved into a small apartment overlooking downtown Austin. A minimalist place with bare walls, concrete floors, and a view of the skyline I used to dream about in my 20s. There were no family photos, no traces of the life I'd left behind, just a mattress on the floor, a coffee maker, and the sound of the city pulsing beyond the glass. People kept telling me that time heals everything. I didn't believe them. Time doesn't heal, it reveals. It strips away the illusions you built around pain until you're forced to face what was always true. For weeks, I woke up before sunrise, brewed my coffee, and watched the sky turn from black to amber. I didn't feel free. Not yet. Just empty. The kind of emptiness that feels almost clean. Jonathan Hale, my attorney, worked faster than I expected. By the end of the first month, the divorce papers were ready. He called me one afternoon while I was sketching in my studio. "It's done, Josh," he said. "You'll get the final decree in a few weeks." I thanked him and hung up. Just like that, 13 years condensed into a stack of legal documents and a signature in blue ink. The news spread faster than I thought it would. Madison's name began circulating through the PR scene. Whispered in offices, gossiped about at rooftop bars. The story twisted and stretched as stories do, but the core stayed the same. She cheated, it went public, and her career crumbled. Clients pulled out. Her agency put her on leave. Ryan, the photographer, moved to Denver after one of his campaigns collapsed. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. Cole called me one night, guilt heavy in his voice. "I should have told you sooner," he said. I took a slow breath. "You told me when it mattered." She's not doing well," he added quietly. "I know," I said. "But that's not my story anymore." He was silent for a while. "You always were too calm for your own good." Maybe he was right. But calm was the only thing I had left. Work saved me in a way. I buried myself in blueprints and design meetings, in projects that reminded me why I started in the first place. My firm had just landed a contract for a sustainable living complex. A green architecture initiative supported by the city. Became my world. Each day, I found myself losing more of Madison's voice in my head. The echoes faded, the laughter, the arguments, the way she used to call my name when she wanted attention. I stopped checking her social media. I stopped replaying the past. Instead, I began sketching new things, open spaces, breathable homes, structures that let light in. One afternoon, during a site inspection, I met someone who didn't feel like a distraction. She felt like stillness. Her name was Olivia Chin. She was an interior designer hired to collaborate on the project. Sharp-minded, soft-spoken, with a quiet humor that reminded me of the parts of life I'd forgotten existed. We talked about design, about minimalism, about how architecture and emotion aren't that different. Both are about what you choose to keep and what you choose to let go. Weeks turned into months and conversations turned into dinners. Not dates, at least not at first. Just two people who understood silence in the same way, not as emptiness but as peace. One evening she asked me, "Do you ever miss her?" The question caught me off guard. I didn't answer right away. I thought about the house, the laughter, the betrayal, and the quiet that followed. "Sometimes," I said finally, "but not the way you think. I miss who I thought she was. And I miss who I was before I stopped believing in that version of her." Olivia nodded. She didn't try to comfort me or fill the silence. She just let it exist. That was her gift, she never forced anything. By the time the divorce was finalized, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I had simply accepted it. The documents arrived in a plain envelope on a Wednesday morning. I opened it, read the decree, and signed the last page. No ceremony, no closure, just a signature that said this chapter is over. That night, I walked to the edge of the lake, the same Lake Travis where everything had fallen apart, and watched the reflection of the city lights ripple across the water. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about Madison. I was thinking about beginnings. About how endings, no matter how brutal, are really just the shape of new things waiting to start. The silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt earned. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the wreckage of what used to be, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. The faint, steady rhythm of peace returning. 2 years passed before I realized I'd stopped counting. The days had blended into something simple, steady, almost serene. My life was smaller now, but it finally felt like it belonged to me. The apartment downtown had grown warmer, not cluttered, just lived in. There were sketches pinned to the wall, a half-finished model of a pavilion on my desk, and the soft hum of a record player spinning old jazz in the evenings. Olivia had moved in 6 months ago, though it never felt like she was moving into my space. She just fit, quietly, naturally, like she'd always been part of the blueprint. We didn't talk about forever. We didn't need to. There was no pressure, no tests, no guessing games. Just mutual respect and the unspoken understanding that love isn't proven by chaos. It's sustained by calm. Sometimes when I watched her paint in the living room, barefoot and humming under her breath, I thought about how different it felt. This peace, this quiet. It wasn't dull. It was alive in its own soft way. On weekends we took Leo, our golden retriever, for walks along the river. He was a rescue, full of energy, always pulling ahead, always forcing us to keep up. Olivia joked that he was the only creature who could make me hurry. One Sunday afternoon, as the three of us returned from a walk, we stopped by the market to pick up groceries. The place was buzzing with people, carts clattering, children laughing, the smell of fresh bread and oranges filling the air. I was reaching for a carton of milk when I froze. Across the aisle, by the shelves of cereal, stood Madison. For a second I wasn't sure it was her. The woman I remembered had perfect hair, flawless skin, a presence that turned heads. The woman in front of me looked tired. Her hair pulled back loosely, eyes dull, shoulders slumped under the weight of something heavier than time. She noticed me. Our eyes met. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then she gave a faint, uncertain smile, the kind people give when they see a ghost they once loved. "Hey," she said softly, almost a whisper. "Hey," I replied. Olivia appeared beside me, carrying a basket of fruit. She looked between us, sensing the tension but saying nothing. Madison's gaze flickered to her, then back to me. There was no malice in her eyes, just recognition. The kind that said she finally understood everything too late. "How have you been?" she asked. "I've been good," I said simply. "Really good." She nodded, biting her lip. "You look different." "So do you." For a moment, the noise of the supermarket seemed to fade. All I could hear was the low hum of the refrigerators and the faint tremble in her breath. "I never meant for it to end like that," she said. "I know," I replied. "But maybe it had to." She looked down, a faint tremor in her hands. "I thought I was testing love," she murmured, "but I was really testing your patience. And I lost both." There wasn't anything left to say. Some apologies come years too late, and by the time they arrive, the person who needed them has already moved on. I gave her a small smile, not cruel, not forgiving, just human. "Take care of yourself, Madison." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes but never falling. "You too, Joshua." I turned to Olivia. "Ready?" "Yeah," she said softly. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. As we walked away, I glanced back once. Madison stood there alone, a carton of milk in her hand, surrounded by strangers who didn't know who she used to be. The light from the ceiling washed over her face, and for a brief second, I saw the woman I'd once loved. Not the one who betrayed me, but the one who laughed barefoot in our kitchen, the one who believed in forever. Then the moment passed. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky with gold and violet. Olivia slipped her hand into mine, and Leo wagged his tail impatiently beside us. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said and meant it. "Everything's exactly how it should be." We walked home slowly, the three of us moving in rhythm. No rush, no ghosts following behind. As the city lights flickered on, I realized something simple yet profound. Love isn't something you prove or test. It's something you build, quietly, like a home that can weather any storm. And for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't haunted by what I'd lost. I was grateful for what I'd found. In the calm that followed, there was no bitterness. Only peace, the kind that stays.